Now, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has insisted that political power is earned through strength and strategic action, warning that Obioakpo local government area remains a decisive force in River State politics. Wike also dismissed calls for his removal, stressing that the power to sack him lies solely with the president. Political tension escalated in the state last week after the House of Assembly accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu, of undermining legislative authority in the state, spending without budgetary approvals, among other accusations. Meanwhile, to prevent the issue from degenerating into a full-blown political crisis yet again, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, has set up a reconciliation committee chaired by former Attorney General of the Federation, Chief Kanu Agabe, SAN. Well, in other news, stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress in the Southeast on Saturday formally endorsed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a second term in office, pledging to mobilize massive votes for his re-election in the 2027 general elections. The endorsement was the outcome of a high-level Southeast APC stakeholders meeting held at the Presidential Hotel, Enugu, where party leaders, governors, lawmakers, elders, and critical stakeholders from across the zone reviewed the region's political trajectory and resolved to align fully with the ruling party at the center. Now, the National Secretary of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, that's Mr. Ogini Olaposi, says the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, will not be allowed to contest on its platform in the 2027 presidential election. The NNPP National Secretary reiterated that the party's 2027 presidential ticket would be open only to bona fide members wishing to contest the presidential and other elections. He noted that Kwankwaso, who flew the NNPP ticket in 2023, would not be allowed to do so in 2027 due to disagreements between the NNPP and the Kwankwasia movement. Well, joining us on the political brief to unpack all of these stories is Arise Director of News and Politics Editor, Samna Sambo. Samna, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you and to all our viewers. So good to have you join us on Arise News in 2026.
Okay, so now, Happy New Year to you. Well, let me do one small amicable. Vimbai was referred to as Zainab by Dr. Nwodo, whom we spoke with earlier on. But it's a beautiful name, by the way. Yeah, Zainab, daughter of the prophet.
Yes.
You know, and then it means beautiful woman, a woman of dignity, a woman of wisdom.
Okay, I like that.
And you are a fragrant flower.
Thank
These
you,
are very
Dr.
complimentary meanings of the name. But very quickly, Sumna Sambo. Dr. Nwodo was discussing the Southeast and the endorsement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What do you make of that? And then, of course, latest developments in River State, where Minister Wike says, well, River State is a no-go area, and that the Rainbow Coalition will determine whoever wins in Rivers, and there is nobody called Fubara 001, and that his tenure is ended and it is over, and that in any case, Rivers is going to vote en masse, fully, landslide, for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has decided that. And then NNPP, which faction does Olaposi belong to? That is saying that the star of the party, Kwankwaso, is not allowed to even run on the platform. Even if Dr. Kwankwaso has given a condition that anybody that wants him to join them must be willing to either make him the presidential candidate or the vice presidential candidate. That's the other subtext. But they're saying, Olaposi is saying he's not part of NNPP. Quickly, because we have limited time today.
All right. Let's start from the very first issue you raised, the issues of the endorsement by the three Southeast governors of the APC. I think based on precedents, President Bola Tinubu himself having assessed the impact of the APC in the Southeast since 2015 will be very careful with such an overwhelming endorsement. because, I mean, the APC is not so much popular in the Southeast, and the figures are there to actually give someone like President Tinubu guidance. And so I think what President Tinubu will be guided will be to actually battle for the 25% in the Southeast states. Because if you look at it, most of the people who were there endorsing President Tinubu and all of that, when push comes to shove, many of them won't be able to actually deliver. And then if you look at the politics of the Southeast, right from independence, I mean, they've always, I mean, had better political alliances with the North, better than, you know, having political alliances between maybe, like, for example, the East and West. I mean, the figures are all there. So these are some of the things that President Tinubu will have to put together. As much as this endorsement is good, to finally analyze and conclude on what exactly he will be going for in the Southeast region. Yeah, the strategy that he actually wants to move into 2027 with will be to actually ensure that all votes from the South, that's the Southeast, South, Southwest, all go to him, and then maybe he fights for votes in the middle belt, and then of course get 25% in the Northwest and the Northeast. But nonetheless, he has to be pretty clear as to what sort of political alignment he's getting from the Southeast leaders. Because yes, the endorsement actually looks good on paper and all of that, but can all of these people actually deliver the votes? Considering the antecedents, whether Peter Obi is going to come out as a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate or whatever it may be, nonetheless, I mean, the figures we've had in the past will serve as a very good guidance. So, and I think President Tinubu is politically smart enough to be able to know when, you know, those who actually have the votes are speaking and when those who don't have the votes are also speaking. And let's talk about the issues you raised in NNPP. I mean, the NNPP group, Ogini, who was talking about, you know, Kwankwaso and all of that, belongs to the Dr. Boniface Adeniran faction. I mean, they were the original owners of the party before that agreement was reached in 2022 to allow, you know, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso to come in, and eventually he flew their flag. And then, of course, the NNPP now, you know, metamorphosed into having a clothing that looked more like Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso than Dr. Boniface Adeniran. And since then, Dr. Boniface Adeniran has been battling, saying that he's the owner of the political party. Well, I think based on the rule books in Nigeria and INEC and all of that, no particular person owns a political party. And so the political party has been facing lots of crises here and there. And the NNPP has had two groups, two factions, if you may want to call it that way, which have been battling for the soul of the party. And Kwankwaso has moved ahead to ensure that he plots the structure of the party ahead of 2027. He's had his own structure. INEC has recognized them and all of that. So it's a tough one if Ogini, who is the factional national secretary, will come around and say that the NNPP may not give Kwankwaso the ticket. It also depends on whether Kwankwaso will be contesting or not, because President Tinubu has been trying to woo Kwankwaso and Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State, but it's been pretty tough. They seem to have got Governor Abba Yusuf, but Kwankwaso seems not to be going, and then the majority of the NNPP members still seem to be with Kwankwaso. So it's a difficult chew for the APC. If Kwankwaso does decide not to go to the APC, and maybe he decides to go to the ADC, or even he decides to remain, it will be a difficult one. But of course, the major thing here is for Dr. Adeniran to see how he can sit down with Kwankwaso and make sure that the NNPP, I mean, having one Kano, you can't just discard the political party. Sit down and see how they can make things happen. They've gone to the courts, and despite all the judgment, it's still a bad decision. This is the major feature of all the political parties at the moment. And then you come to the other issues that you raise. It's pretty a difficult time for Rivers State, and then, of course, the politics that we have therein. But the good thing is that leaders from the Niger Delta region are not slipping over, and that's why we would like to salute the efforts of the Pan-Niger Delta, Forum. If they're able to actually get into the state and get, the top leaders of Rivers State, away from Wike and Fubara, to be able to come and sit down and have a conversation with the former Attorney General of the Federation, who is leading this panel, and some eminent members of that reconciliation panel, I think it will actually make something, out of the political crisis that we have in place there. But in reality, the president himself will know that there is no how a sitting governor who has defected to the APC will be pushed aside. and then you consider only the minister. So the minister himself, whether it's Wike or whosoever, must not be pushed aside too. So in this instance, President Tinubu has a very difficult situation ahead of him. I don't really envy him because he tried the first time and all the political forces in the state accused him in one way or the other of not taking the right political decisions. But as we get close to the the election period, I can tell you that the forces from Abuja are really weighing in to see whether indeed Nyesom Wike still has the capacity to be able to deliver the votes. And that's why you saw that Wike had to go to Rivers to still show his capacity, because some of the local government chairmen, I mean, if not all of them, are still loyal to him. But when push comes to shove, and then the forces from Abuja get into the political theater of Rivers State, will Wike be able to stand the grounds? And so, well, that's why you've seen that there've been this rising call for him. That's for President Tinubu to sack Nyesom Wike and so on. But can President Tinubu afford to do that? I will tell you that he can't afford to do that. And so the good thing that's playing out for President Tinubu in this election is that the presidential election and that of National Assembly elections will come first before that of the governorship. And so he may be able to use that to actually buy some time before he's able to settle down and then look at what may happen in the governorship election. But the major fear of Nyesom Wike is that if Governor Fubara does have his second-term ticket, it will negate the agreements that have been reached, that he should not get that. And then, of course, Fubara may want to use that to decapitate the political machinery of Nyesom Wike. And if you were the one, you wouldn't agree on that. So it's a difficult situation, but I think the Niger Delta leaders would, do Nigeria a favor if they're able to help, reduce the political tension, because if it does affect our oil production output, with crisis coming out of that place and going down because of the Ijaw factor, I think it will be good for Nigeria. And then, of course, going into the elections, it will affect other outcomes generally across the nation.
Well, a lot happening within the political parties, whether it be in the ruling party or in those opposing. And certainly looks like one thing is for sure, that beyond being a competition between political parties, 2027 will surely be a battle between factions as well. Sambo, thank you so much for your time today and for your analysis.